There are certain turning points in life where a person enters your reality and instantly the idea of coincidence disappears. You can try to break the timeline apart and apply logic to how everything unfolded, but your inner knowing already understands that logic was never the real force behind it. This person did not simply walk into your life. They arrived with certainty, and in that arrival, something deep inside you shifted. Quiet, but permanent. Even now, as you try to move forward, as you tell yourself the story is over, as you reason your way through the separation, there is still a force pulling your attention back toward them. It is not desperation that pulls you, it is recognition. If this message has reached you today, it is not by accident. Meaningful moments tend to arrive exactly when the soul is ready to understand them. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And right now, something within you is beginning to stir. It is a kind of inner knowing that does not accept silence easily. A feeling that this connection was never meant to be erased from your memory without impact. You may find yourself standing at an emotional crossroads, feeling divided inside, torn between holding on and letting go, between trusting your feelings and doubting what you see. Silence often increases uncertainty. Distance can make even the strongest emotions question themselves. You may have wondered whether you imagined the depth of what you felt, whether meaning was created where none truly existed. But if it were only imagination, it would not have stayed alive this long. Illusions do not survive pressure from time. What is not real eventually fades, yet this has remained. And because it has remained, a deeper part of you refuses to release it. Time has not weakened it. Pain has not erased it. Distance has not freed you from it. Instead, every attempt to move away seems to bring you back to the same quiet understanding that this person matters, not in an emotional reaction of the mind, but in a recognition from something deeper within you. This is not obsession. Obsession is loud, restless, and demanding. What you feel is quieter. It exists beneath thoughts, beneath fear, beneath expectation. It appears in stillness, in dreams, in unexpected emotional waves that rise without warning. It feels like something unfinished, something meaningful that has not yet completed its expression. When you first encountered this person, something ancient inside you responded. It was not just attraction. It was not a logical match on paper. It was familiarity without explanation, as if some part of you recognized them before this moment in time. The conversation may have been ordinary, but the energy behind it was not. Your system registered both intensity and safety at the same time, a rare combination that leaves a lasting imprint. Jung once described that meeting another person is like the contact of two chemical substances. If a reaction occurs, both are transformed. And transformation is exactly what happened to you. Whether visible or not, they were changed too. Connections that alter us are never casual. They rearrange something within. They open internal doors that cannot fully close again. Even now, even in silence, even across distance, there is still a connection that continues beneath the surface. Some people process emotion outwardly, others inwardly. Silence does not always mean absence of feeling. Sometimes it means the feeling is too large to express. You awakened something in them that they were not prepared to hold. Instead of moving toward it, they pulled back. They believed distance might quiet what they were feeling, but energy does not disappear just because it is ignored. In their quiet moments, when distraction fades, thoughts of you still surface. Not because they choose it consciously, but because the connection naturally arises. They remember conversations. They remember how they felt seen. They notice the contrast between your presence and the emptiness of everything else around them. And that contrast creates internal discomfort. Not because they do not care, but because they do. Within them, there are internal struggles, old emotional wounds, fear of vulnerability, fear of losing control, fear of being exposed in ways they are not ready for. For some people, love does not feel safe, not because of the other person, but because of what it activates within themselves. This is where many strong connections become complicated. One person begins to awaken while the other resists what is being reflected back to them. You became a mirror. You reflected emotions they had not fully processed, and instead of facing that reflection, they stepped back from it. Jung explained this when he said that, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will guide your life and you will call it fate. Right now, they are still being influenced by what they have not yet confronted. But once awareness begins, it cannot be undone. What has been seen cannot be unseen. What has been felt cannot be unfelt. You entered their life and awakened emotional truth, softness, and authenticity that had been dormant. That kind of impact does not disappear quickly. It lingers and reshapes perception over time. The universe does not place people in each other's lives without effect. If this connection was meant to end without meaning, it would have ended without echo. Instead, it continues to appear in unexpected signs, in dreams that feel more real than waking life, in sudden thoughts of each other that arrive without effort. These are not random distractions. They are reminders that something is still unfolding beneath the surface. There is a difference between forcing an outcome and trusting timing. Your exhaustion is understandable. Loving deeply without clarity is emotionally heavy. But hope is not weakness. Hope is often intuition in disguise, and intuition does not force itself. It simply remains present. Something is shifting now, even if you cannot fully see it yet. Resistance is slowly weakening. Emotional walls are beginning to soften. What once felt closed is starting to loosen. And the idea of losing you entirely is becoming more significant to them than the fear of stepping forward. This is not the conclusion of the story. It is a pause where understanding is forming. You are not being asked to wait in emptiness. You are being asked to remain grounded in yourself, to stay open without losing your balance. True patience is not passive waiting. It is steady trust without self-abandonment. As this settles within you, notice what feels true without effort. Truth does not need pressure to be accepted. It simply feels clear when it arrives. And if you feel a sense of calm instead of anxiety, that is your internal clarity responding. This connection is not breaking, it is changing form. And in that transformation, both of you are being reshaped. The mind often struggles with uncertainty because it wants definitions and timelines. But deeper awareness does not operate that way. Growth often happens in unclear space. It removes illusions, expectations, and emotional dependencies until only truth remains. What you are experiencing is not simply waiting, it is becoming. Since this connection entered your life, you are no longer the same person. Your emotional awareness has expanded, your standards have shifted. You can no longer easily accept shallow connection or inconsistent presence. Something within you now seeks alignment, honesty, and emotional clarity. This is not coincidence. It is the imprint of a deep emotional encounter. Sometimes a connection does not arrive to immediately stay. Sometimes it arrives to awaken awareness first, to show you what your heart is capable of feeling and what it can no longer ignore. Once that awareness is activated, you cannot return to who you were before. Even if the person is physically absent, the inner truth remains active. This is why letting go feels so difficult. It is not simply attachment to a person. It is attachment to a truth about yourself that was revealed through them. You discovered your emotional depth. You discovered your capacity for presence, connection, and devotion. And once that expansion is experienced, it cannot be reversed. The mind may question it at times, asking why it does not feel easier or more logical. But connections of this nature do not follow linear patterns. They move in cycles, returning to the same emotional themes at deeper levels each time. What complicates this situation is not lack of feeling, but timing. You are emotionally open. They are still working through internal fears and unresolved experiences. Readiness cannot be transferred from one person to another. It must be developed internally through experience and self-confrontation. There are moments when they almost reach out, moments when your name comes to their thoughts, moments when they hold their phone, unsure of what to say. But fear interrupts. Fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of emotional exposure. So they pause, hoping time will resolve what only courage can. Yet time keeps bringing you back into awareness, because unresolved emotional bonds do not disappear easily. They resurface when distractions fade. Late at night, early in the morning, in quiet spaces where thoughts are unavoidable. You become a presence they cannot fully ignore. You may also notice signs appearing more frequently. Not to confuse you, but to steady your trust in your own perception. A song, a dream, a sudden memory that feels emotionally clear. These are not meant to pull you backward, but to remind you that your inner knowing is not false. A subtle shift is happening within you. You are learning the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment says you need this person to feel whole. Alignment says you are already whole, and what belongs to you will meet you in truth. That shift changes everything. When you stop chasing clarity and begin embodying it, the dynamic naturally changes. Emotional pressure decreases, presence becomes stronger. And in that state, genuine connection becomes more possible. You are not being punished by delay. You are being prepared for something more stable, more mutual, more conscious. Prepared to receive without losing yourself. Prepared to recognize real effort instead of chasing potential. Prepared to stand fully in your own emotional worth. They can feel this shift, even if they cannot explain it. They sense your energy no longer waiting in the same way. And because of that, the connection begins to feel more real to them. Because now, it is no longer automatically available. It becomes something that must be chosen. This is where emotional truth begins to surface. Defenses weaken. Memories return with softness instead of resistance. The desire to repair and reconnect begins to grow. You may experience emotional waves, moments of calm followed by intensity. This is integration taking place. You are no longer lost inside the connection, but you are no longer disconnected from it either. You are learning balance. You are allowing the connection to exist without trying to control its outcome. And that state carries power. It signals readiness for truth in whatever form it arrives. The path between you is not truly blocked. It is unfolding. Old misunderstandings are dissolving. Internal resistance is loosening. What once felt chaotic is slowly organizing itself beneath awareness. At this stage, there is nothing more you need to force. No proving, no chasing, no convincing. Only presence. Only honesty with yourself. Stay open without chasing. The rest is unfolding in its own rhythm. Do not rush what is already in motion, because what is meant for you does not require force. It arrives in its own timing and in its own way. As this part of the journey continues, you may begin to sense it more clearly, not as longing anymore, but as a quiet certainty that settles inside you. A knowing that does not beg for reassurance or validation. A trust that no longer depends on constant signs or external confirmation. Something is moving toward alignment, not in a hurried way, not under pressure, but in a way that feels natural and real. There comes a moment when the longing softens and turns into understanding. Not because the connection loses meaning, but because your relationship with it changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and slowly begin to feel, this is happening for me. That shift may seem small, but it changes everything inside you. It is the moment when pain begins to transform into awareness and confusion starts turning into clarity. You are beginning to realize that this connection was never meant to consume your entire being. It was meant to reveal you, to show you where you abandoned yourself before, to expose old patterns, and to help you see the difference between intensity and intimacy, between attachment and devotion, between illusion and truth. As this understanding integrates within you, the suffering starts to lose its grip. You may notice that your thoughts of this person are changing. They are no longer frantic or desperate. They come gently now, sometimes with warmth, sometimes with clarity, sometimes with calm acceptance that whatever unfolds must come from authenticity and not fear. This is emotional maturity forming within you. And as this happens, the entire dynamic of the connection begins to shift, because when one part of a bond evolves, the whole structure responds. Energy always seeks balance. When you stop chasing answers and start living in your truth, everything around you begins to reorganize itself. What once felt stuck begins to move again. What once felt confusing starts to make sense in subtle ways. They are feeling this shift too, even if they cannot fully explain it. Your energy no longer reaches them as need or desperation. It reaches them as presence, as absence, as a calm strength that cannot be ignored or controlled. And that is far more powerful than pursuit ever was. Silence begins to change meaning. It is no longer rejection. It becomes reflection. It becomes processing. It becomes the space where inner truths rise to the surface. They are being asked in their own way to look inward and face what they have avoided. Patterns of emotional distance, control, and self-protection are no longer serving the same purpose they once did. What once felt safe now feels limiting. There are moments when they feel pulled toward you, followed by hesitation, followed again by reflection. This inner conflict is not about you alone. It is about them standing at the edge of their own growth. Stepping forward requires vulnerability. Staying back requires loss. That tension cannot remain forever without resolution. What matters most for you to understand is that the outcome of this connection does not depend on how much you wait or how intensely you hope. It depends on how deeply you remain aligned with yourself. The more you stay grounded in your truth, the clearer everything becomes. Whether the path leads to reunion or release, it will no longer destroy you. It will strengthen you. And there is something within you that already understands this connection carries unfinished meaning. Not because it is meant to trap you in repetition, but because it is meant to bring truth into the open. Words that were never spoken, feelings that were never fully expressed, choices that were delayed out of fear. These do not simply disappear. They remain present until they are acknowledged. Fear stands quietly in the middle of this connection, asking to be seen. Your fear has been about trusting your intuition without losing yourself. Their fear has been about opening their heart without losing control. Both lessons are unfolding at their own pace. You may begin to notice that even the idea of reunion no longer feels the same. Not because your care has disappeared, but because your standards have evolved. You now value depth over fantasy. You are no longer willing to accept confusion disguised as fate. You want clarity, presence, consistency, and real effort. This is not pushing them away. This is calling them into truth. Many misunderstand soul connections because they think they are meant to be endured through suffering. But true connections do not exist to trap you in pain. They exist to return you to yourself first, and then, if aligned, to each other in truth. Now, there may be moments when communication opens unexpectedly. A message that feels honest, a conversation that carries more sincerity, or a shift in energy that feels lighter and less heavy. Do not rush these moments. Let them unfold naturally. Real reconnection cannot be forced. And if fear rises within you, fear of hoping again or being disappointed again, let it exist without letting it guide you. Fear is not a warning of the future, it is a memory of the past. You are not the same person you were when this began. You are more grounded, more aware, more self-respecting. You no longer need to prove your worth through waiting or endurance. Your worth has already been revealed through your growth. Whether they meet you at this level is their choice, but they will feel the difference. The universe responds to embodiment, not longing, and you are embodying something new now. Self-respect, emotional stability, and calm trust are becoming your natural state. Pay attention to how your body responds when you think of them now.